Hey, first up is Crystal. So yeah, it looks like we got a basic room, desk, monitor, binoculars. Um, let's take a look at the other ones. Looks like she's looking out the window there. Okay, and standing by the door. You might think about just a little bit more on the composition of the shots. Let's take a look in Maya. So I might hide the joints just because they're distracting and we won't be accessing them anyways. Um, there was a question on there about um, wrapping the hands around the binocular. If you use this curve, you can curl those, getting you a good start. Oh, looks like you have some binding issues on the fingers, huh? What is that? Might see if we can use the hammer weights tool, see if that wants to work for us. Hammer skin weights. Yeah, great. I think, but there's a few more of them. I'm just going to hit G, which is the previous function. It's better, but it's not all the way fixed. Might have to get in there and properly manually fix these. I'm just going to deselect those, then hit G again for hammer skin weight. Yeah, it's getting a lot of them, not all of them. Oops. It doesn't want to get that close. Okay. See if. Oh, okay. So yeah, I might just go around, using the hammer skin weights tool to fix these finger things. Seems to be doing not so good a job. Wow. So why? Okay. So now I'm not sure why this is happening, but let's take a look. I'm going to do shift period, which is the greater than symbol, to grow that selection a little bit. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on with the bulk of these points, why they're squishing so much there. I'm going to go into the component editor and pinky, pinky, pinky. So yeah, it's probably need to go into the paint weights tool. Whoops. Um, so just select surface, right mouse click, paint, skin cluster weights, and double click on the paint weights tool. And let's just start with pinky. I'm just gonna just do star, pinky star to see. Hey, oh, maybe it's case sensitive. Might want. There we go. And we want the pinky finger left in this case. Start with that and see what the weights look like. That looks okay. Ah, see how that's all dark there? You would expect that to be more white with that. And that doesn't look right either. Okay. So, let's show the joints again, but I'm probably going to need to change the joint size. Quite big. Display, animation, joint size. Let's try like 0.2. Way too big. 0.05. Still big. Okay. Oh, they're slightly misaligned. Actually, they're extremely misaligned. That's gonna be a problem. I think that's the source of a lot of our issues here because um, your knuckles should be here, and that is going to make it impossible. I mean, weighting's not going to fix that issue. It's got to be done with the skeleton. Um, so at this point, boy, there'll be some cleanup on there, I guess. Um, so if I wonder how is the rest of the binding? Because what you can do at this point is you can export your skin weights to. Oh, that's not fixed anyways. The head's got a problem. Okay, so seems like there's work to do on the skinning anyways. How's this? Oh, and this is all kind of warped, and that's not working. Okay, so they're not really worth saving. So I'm going to detach skin, and then let's go to our advanced skeleton. Hopefully, it will let us switch back to so I think it's not letting us go back to fit mode at this point. So like to reposition those. So yeah, I would just go ahead and start over on the rig. You might want to clean up some of this stuff as well in your outliner. Um, but yeah, that you're not going to get the fingers to work right until the joints are in the right position. So let's just see if this hand's the same problem. Yeah, so those should be here. These should be there. And actually, though, that's kind of in an okay position, but yeah, the hands aren't going to work with those there. So yeah, I would go ahead and delete the rig, which is probably this one. Looks like maybe some stuff got separated out from his. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, and then go back and just fit this thing correctly. I don't think I'm going to go over the whole process right now, though, because that's obviously from. So, just to make this point here, um, these are going to line up right here and here with this edge, just to show you on one, maybe. Just turn up. I mean, I need to. Do I not have something selected here? Okay. Whoops. No, it's twisting the arm because I don't have the shoulder also. Okay. I mean, really, what you would do is it's like trying to keep doing shortcuts here, but it's hard to just not do the whole thing correctly. We don't want that to twist, really. Yeah, see, that shouldn't be flipping over. I think this guy needs to move back a little bit. It should stay up like that. I don't know why it's flipping. But the point of the story is that these guys need to line up with the fingers. So it's going to be something like this, but you're going to have to really get in there finger by finger and make sure that those work. I think this will work better if I'm in hierarchy mode. Let's see if that... Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, this is going to be way easier. So yeah, switch it to hierarchy mode, and then you can work your way. It's still twisting that in a way that I don't like. Don't know why it's flipping that arm over. It kind of worries me. But yeah, get in there, go into hierarchy mode and get in there finger by finger and really just make sure each joint is placed correctly. Okay, so see, you got to really take your time with this, make it right. And do that for each of the fingers, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, I'm doing kind of a real rush job, but I don't want to do the whole thing right now. But yeah, you'll have to kind of go back to that fit skeleton stage. But focusing on, back on the set, you'll definitely want a floor in here. You might think of, it looks like you've got a chair, which is good. That looks good. The desk looks good. Some nice detail on these different, on the drawers and stuff, and the handles are good. The binoculars. Yeah, nice work on those. Monitor, you might want to add a keyboard. You don't have to make every individual key. The window, I might look at some reference for this because this is pretty. Let me just change my options here so that I can see things a little better. Maybe I'll put on a wireframe unshaded. Yeah, that's a little, it just doesn't really look like a window right now. So look at some reference, do a proper windowsill and have the panes of glass set back and all that kind of stuff. Also, you'll want a ceiling because we may catch the ceiling in some of the shots. Maybe another window on this wall or a framed picture or something. And think about what else might be in this room. It's a pretty big room to just have the desk and the chair in it. So maybe you could also shrink the room and it wouldn't seem quite so empty, but I would try to get a few more things in there. Next up is Falco. So yeah, it looks like you've got a pretty interesting cave environment here. Scary eyes. Kind of a photo on the outside. Let's take a look at the My file. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Got this cave and the floor here. I think that's it. And just sort of like a photo for the outside. So yeah, I mean, one thing to think about for improving that's kind of tough about this is that while it's good that you've got the texture going, it doesn't hold up as well when the camera gets close to it. There's definitely some stretching issues on here. Let's take a look at your UV map on that real quick. Hmm. See if the checkers will show up for us. Oh. Um, so what you'd really want is these checkers to be square. And look how long some of them are. So, yeah, and see how it's not really sliced up. It's just one big shell, and that's going to be hard to make it lay out. So I would grab maybe this edge and cut that, and that one, cut that. Looks like you've got a hole. Just make sure it's cut along here and there. And then let's do unfold. So this one. Select the UVs. I'm not sure why those are separate, but I don't think we see those anyways. Okay, now not perfect. Let's try some more cuts because I think that maybe it'll do better. So let's just do one right along the top middle there. Maybe that'll give it what it needs to. Okay. It's getting better. They still look, I mean, what you'd want is that to be square shaped, and they're really still looking elongated there. So I'm going to select this whole thing and, nope, scale it this way. So I'm just kind of doing some manual scaling. So see how they're looking a lot more square now. I'm guessing we probably didn't need that last cut. Oh, there is a cut along the top already. Yeah. Why is that? It's already separated. Let me just back it up a little bit more. Okay, let's unfold here. Okay, yeah, that's all together now. Yeah, so I guess we just need to manually do it. So those are looking much more square. And yeah, a little bit better. So I have a feeling, yeah, it needs some work still. Why isn't that separated out? I thought we cut along that edge. Let's try it again. Oops. Just kind of wanting to, let's try laying that out again. Yeah, look how square that is now. It looks nice. Looks like that's working. So, and then maybe we'll just, yeah, rearrange these a little bit. Let's just lay these out. Oh, oops, I selected vertices instead of UVs. So now, and then the other thing you want to do is if we're really only going to see the inside of this, I mean, it might not have even been worth doing the outside. If we're only going to see the inside of this, what you might do is just scale this one up, pretty big, because you want the maximum. And then I guess just in case we see the outside, you can use those. But if we're only seeing the inside, you should use the area as much as possible for this. If we really, really are never going to see the outside, then I would just fill this whole square with that and just don't worry about the outside because you'll never see it. So I think that if you do some UV mapping work, then you won't see some of the weird stretching that we're seeing on here. And some of the kind of jaggedness is the shape of this, so you might want to smooth it once and just just spend a little more time in the detail of it. So UV map it, got some detail. I'm thinking I see a seam here, and I don't know if that's in the texture or the UV map. And so I'm spending a lot of time on the texture on this, partly because really the scene depends on the texture. But what I would consider adding to this is, some rocks. So just build and place some individual rocks around, especially helping to hide this kind of seam between the bottom and the sides. The other thing to think of in a scene like this is light source. What is the light source? What is lighting the inside of the cave? Is there a sort of an outdoor moonlight lighting that? Is there a torch somewhere or some other light source? So think about where you'll want to light it from. And yeah. So here's Todd. And this is good. I mean, it's there's definitely some thought to the composition here. It's a dramatic shot, from below looking up. With the I guess that's a building in the background. Whoops. I think they want to put a note there, and I don't. Yeah, this is good. The catch with a shot this wide and this far up is that you would need to add a lot of, what's in this space, other detail, or the windows on the side here, what's beyond the roof of the building. Is there, a ladder going up, some fire escape? It'd be quite a project to flesh out this scene in such a way that it looks complete. So you might want to, if you want a shot from above, maybe like go in much tighter so that you'd only have to figure out what to populate this area with. Oh, geez. Yeah, good composition. Not sure what we're looking at here in the background exactly. It looks like we're looking through some windows or something, but yeah, looks like he's kind of on a third here, so that's good. Okay, let's take a look at the Maya file. Okay, here we are in the Maya file. Go to the perspective view. Oh, okay, I see. Oh yeah, there's a lot. Oh, there's a lot of buildings here. Wow, this is pretty. Wow, this is quite fleshed out city here. Very cool. So yeah, I mean the catch is though that what will really matter is what's close to the camera and what's in the camera view. So there's kind of more city here than's even needed, like how are we ever going to see these buildings over here or that kind of thing. And then, these are just cubes that lack any detail on the sidewalk and stuff. So I think the thing about this is it's cool to have such a fleshed out environment. However, you kind of want to put your more effort into the detail. Where's the hover car? Is that in here? No. Oh, those are just empty groups. What we see near him. Like if you had a shot, if he was on the street here, like yeah, that background looks good, but is there a mailbox here? Are there street lights? Is there a car on the street? Other people? So it's doing a big city is a big project, and but again, it all depends on the camera view because you just have to flesh out what's in the view of the camera. So I see you've got these shots and that's looking pretty good, and going up is helpful because then you don't see the details on the street, but still you'd need like some kind of image for the front of this building. That one would need a lot of work. This one, you could fill in some of this foreground stuff, but I think that was what the initial scene was looking at. So yeah, I mean, you've got all this empty street here. There's no sidewalk on this building. You know, those fronts of those buildings. So I think that you need to be a little strategic about choosing your camera angles in such a way that you can have parts of the set more fleshed out, you know, with the limited time that you have to do that, rather than trying to do these really wide, grand shots. I mean, the other thing is to just find photos of the fronts of building, like orthographic photos of the fronts of building, and just texture them on there, and that'll get you pretty far. You know, but just think that you want the highest detail in the stuff that's closest to the camera. So, you know, just be strategic about choosing only very few camera angles and fleshing out the detail for those angles. Next up is Sebastian. And yeah, this one's looking very good. There's a lot of detail here. You can see you've spent time texturing, and you've got some leaves here and some stuff going on in the mountains. The greenery on the mountain looks a little kind of patchy and random, where it's just it has such sharp borders. I would expect it to more, you know, you could just spend a little bit more time on painting the greenery on it or lose it. But right now it looks a little odd the way it's painted in. I guess I'd want a little bit of more transition on the edges here. Fence looks good. The coastline's good, but maybe like varying the depth of that so it isn't such a perfectly straight line. And these leaves are nice, although look out for these inner penetrations on the fence. Oh, I can see from this view, you can see the coastline's a lot more curved than I thought it was, which is good. These rocks are looking weird. I mean, all of the rocks are looking a little too round, but certainly these big ones just look strange because they look, I don't know, it looks more like it's just too geometrically perfect. So kind of crunch up your rocks a little bit, get some more, sharp edges and stuff like that. But these really need some sculpting work. You might want to look at some reference for those or get rid of them. But right now they look distracting. Yeah, and I like stuff like this, like rocks that aren't in a pile, look, and you could do stuff to kind of break up these edges, like get a few of these rocks and kind of put them at the edge there, and if you want to have like maybe like a dead leaf or two that fell down on the beach, that could be a nice touch. It's good you got a beach ball down there. It's nice that there's some real kind of height to this. There's some different altitudes in the different areas of the set. But again, these rocks are they're hurting you more than you're helping you. So yeah, overall this is really good. I think, like I've been saying, the rocks here, the large rocks, are the thing to kind of either fix or remove. Keep in mind what is closest to the camera will need the most detail. So if you get kind of low here, at this distance the sand holds up really well. Close to the camera here, the sand starts kind of blurring out. So, if you're going to get closer to the camera, you might want to like add in a little kind of mound of sand that's like very high resolution texture or something that's, for whatever's closest to the camera. But yeah, it's really good work on this. Next up is Cameron. It's kind of a cool interior. It's tough, if you're using, looks like a photo for the exterior. It's that can look odd if, or is that a painting? I can't tell what we're looking at, but obviously it's a 2D image. To get the two looks to match can be kind of challenging. But one thing that can be good is just sort of throw the background one out of focus. Yeah, it's an interesting interior. I like all the, whatever these things are, the piping kind of stuff. Yeah, it looks like some good area to work in. Let's take a look at the Maya scene. Oh yeah, we didn't see this whole side to it. Looks like there's a few different cameras, views. Oh, we did see that side to it. I get it. That's what we were looking at. Sorry. Just not from wide. Okay. Yeah, this is a wider shot. So, yeah, this looks good. A lot of area to work in. Again, the more you can kind of narrow down your camera choices, you can really focus on adding detail and texture to the areas that you're using. Question about scale. So you were saying that you had a problem scaling the rig. The rig should scale, but if you're having a problem with that, you can also just scale the whole set. So I would just take this, group the whole thing, center the pivot, which is a good idea to group the whole thing anyway. And just select all these surfaces, make sure you delete the history on it before you try to scale it, and then you can scale the whole set to the character. So you don't necessarily have to scale the character to the set, you can scale the set to the character. So if you're having a problem doing it one way, you can always do it the other. So actually I'd probably just recommend doing it this way. Although if you wanted to keep your camera positions, they would have to be in the group as well. And they should, scale with it. But yeah, it's looking good. I think, look for other things in there that will help you determine, I don't know, just kind of normal things that we can recognize that help establish things like scale. A good example is this railing, because we have a sense of how big a railing is. It's usually, I don't know, 3 feet tall or something like that. That's a good example. But look for other things. I mean, I think this kind of keypad thing is good. Maybe, I don't know, a fire extinguisher, a computer monitor. I don't know if a few other details in there, just to, because right now it's sort of there isn't a lot cueing the audience to give them an idea of how big or small is this thing. Without the rail, and if I don't know what that is, that could be 10 stories tall, or it could be a crawl space. It's sort of hard to tell. I think these are doors that are supposed to open, I'm guessing, so that might help if that's a little more clearly defined. Or a sign can be good, or just think of other little details you can add to help flesh out the look and give it some better sense of scale. Next up is Stephanie. Some really nice textures here, on the character too, but also on the table, floor, and the wall. Good work on that. Yeah, I really like the brick. That's working very well. The swords are nicely modeled. Maybe something that shows how they're mounted to the wall. Some kind of little, I don't know, little metal clasp or mount or something would be helpful, because they sort of look like they're floating in front of the wall right now. Might could probably do better on the texture on the shield. It almost looks like a brushed plastic or something right now instead of a metal. But maybe can help with some of the reflections, and maybe if you wanted to get into some scratches and those kinds of things, it could be a good idea. It's a good pose. I would say from a point of view of camera angles, these are sort of I mean, I guess I can see the composition here is kind of interesting with the three swords there. This is kind of high up looking down. I guess it depends what you're trying to do. I like this composition though. It's sort of interesting, although I wouldn't tend to cut off her feet if there was this much headroom, so probably try to get her framed a little bit better. Let's look at the Maya file. Okay. I think you said you're still working on the rig. It looks like there's some issue on the hand here. It does seem like, I feel like we went over this before, that the hand's not lined up. Anyways, the hand's not lined up, so you'll kind of have to rework the rig regarding that. Yeah, but these are interesting, although might be nice to show. I see these are all reference mode. But it might be nice to kind of think about the construction of these a little bit. Maybe the head's a separate piece and it's connected to the body piece, which is connected to, instead of one big revolve, it'd be kind of cool to have it be like show its subsequent pieces. Um, Table's good. Shield is a nice shape. We've seen this before. I like that piece. Um, yeah, and the swords look really good as well. So you've got some good stuff going on here. You've got good textures. I think this is a very workable set. I can't remember if we saw the ceiling in the shot. Oh yeah, right now that's just a black hole. So yeah, get a ceiling in there in case you get that, caught in a camera angle. Would be a good idea. And but yeah, the set's coming along very nicely. Next up is Steven, and yeah, just really beautiful scenes here. Just very nice renders and thought to everything, lighting, composition. It's just great. Um, yeah, really good. I think that one area for improvement would be to think about things like footsteps in the snow. Like around things like the snowman in here, and you know kind of roughing up the snow a little bit more. Um, because right now it's a little too kind of smooth and perfect. It's almost like it's been like iced over or something. Um, yeah, and a great shot here. Um, Action shot. It'd be fun to do stuff like flying up behind him. It looks, yeah. I don't know if you rigged the rope there or if you just modeled it into position, but it's looking really great with his little mittens here. It's just excellent work. Um, kind of great. So yeah, I think that if you wanted to take this further, the thing would be to work on the snow, showing sort of more texture and different shapes, and maybe a displacement map or something like that. But just yeah, really excellent scenes. Next up is Pier, and yeah, looks good. Character's looking really nice in this view, and it's interesting. It's a bit sparse, but having just these little details on the drain pipe really help with a sense of scale and detail. So it's good, and having this kind of stone as a separate piece, like those little things really matter. I still think you could come up with more. Maybe there's a vent down here. Maybe you do the separate pieces of concrete and separate curb piece in the sidewalk. What other details might you find on a building? Get the texture on there. Is it bricks? Is it going to be stucco? Could there be cracks in there? Could you put some detail on the door, like a door handle? Get some photo reference and just fill in some details. I mean, it's a good set because it's very limited and it gives you the opportunity to flesh out the details in a limited area. Let's take a look at the Miocene. So, whoops. Yeah, kind of not a whole lot of more to find out here, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's nice that you've got like a little dent there in the curve and stuff, but I still think, I would just make this a separate piece going, the curb, that one thing. And I just like, you almost have them here, these things. You could actually go like this and do extrude face, and then see, those aren't separate. So what is it? Control right mouse click? No. There's the it's control shift right mouse click, toggle keep faces together, and then you have all these as separate faces, and then move them up a bit or something like that. And then very quickly, why does it smooth out here though? I'm not sure. Put the wireframe unshaded. Anyways, you could get the various sidewalk pieces in there. Probably want to get rid of that. But then, you might also extrude this edge and kind of pull that up. And yeah. So anyways, keep adding detail, but it's looking good. Next up is Sean. Yeah, nice environment. I'm really liking this plant here. Not sure what this cylinder is meant to be. Maybe it'll be... Oh, I guess it's not in this other shot, so... Anyways, no matter. But yeah, it's nice how you've kind of stacked some of these and have some laying on their side. I mean, it's really the same model and over, but you've made good use of them. You maybe even vary these a little bit because they're a bit kind of perfectly in a row. I like this plant in that one. Oh yeah, and a nice little table here, a few objects there. Looks good. And you're mentioning some rendering problem. We can take a look. Let's take a look at the render issue. So I don't have your image map texture, so it's hard, but I can still see that strange issue is there. I'm gonna hit this one and let's check the normals. So normals set to face, and then normals soften edge, and we'll just select that and render that area again so we can see that is solving the problem. We can assign another material to it just to check it with that. Yeah, so that's so, and then it's going to have some history on it, which could potentially slow down the character. So we can try delete by type non-deformer history. Let's just check the. Let's reset this. This doesn't always work. Oh, it looks like it did. Let's see if it's still bound and all that. Oh, good. Yeah, so delete non-deformer history after you do that. So normal set to face, normals soften edge, and it should stop that strain. I don't know how that happened in the first place, but that should solve it. Oh wow, look at this shrub. Nice. Next up is Byron. And yeah, it's coming along. It's got that sort of cartoony look. I don't know if I'm buying the cylinders for trees and the just the shapes here for shrubs. I get that it's kind of cartoony, but at the same time it feels a little too primitive looking. Another thing is I imagine that these bee houses would be up on tables rather than on the ground, but maybe not. Maybe they would be on the ground. You could add stuff on the ground like a little path and maybe some grass or rocks or something, just something to flesh it out and show that the areas people walk a lot. Yeah, it's coming along nicely. Yeah, it says you're still working on the rig. Let me know if you need any help with that. Next up is Nadia. The images don't show us too much of the set, so I'll go right into the Maya file. I'm going to turn off the gate, just to make this easier to see. Really nice work here on the set. Really liking these different objects. The bookshelf, just to take the time to, whoops, go through and carefully, place all these books with different sizes and, different angles and different ways of stacking. I think that's very nice and naturalistic. And the chair looks good. It looks like you're really looking at reference, and the scale of everything is pretty nice. So yeah, really good job on this set. I think it's nice. It feels pretty fleshed out. Maybe something on the wall, a little picture, a little cork board, whiteboard, something else could be good. And then maybe if this is going to get in the shot, which it probably has a pretty good chance of it, some kind of window frame and show the separate window panes and that kind of stuff could help flesh it out. But yeah, very nice looking work.